Good evening, everyone, and thanks for joining us. I'm sure some people will still be coming on, but we want to welcome our stakeholders, residents, speakers, guests tonight as we approach 2023. I think it's important as we focus on our steps for development that we really start to hone in and tell you about some of the things that are happening and discussed for East Girard Avenue, and also to did I just pop off? Oh, there I am. I love my computer. Um, get your input about what we would like to see, what we can possibly do. For those that don't know or remember, the bid is working with ISA architects to create a vision plan. And the purpose of that is really to focus on accessibility and connectivity to and from our commercial corridor. We are in such a unique and wonderful position that as development continues, and it continues not just on Frankford Avenue from the river down to Lehigh, but on North Front and East Girard. And the question is, how do we plan for our long-term growth in future, whether it be safety, development, both, etc. So our first plan focused on three different intersections for us to ignite or activate. Those were the intersection at Front and East Girard Avenue, also Front and Cecil B. Moore, and the last was Frankford and Lehigh Avenues. For many of you, and I hope you were able to participate, we held several working groups during the course of the year with ISA to run through designs, etc., to come up with a plan that not only met the needs of not just beautification, but actual practicality, and also work with our municipal and state partners to pull it off. I'm pleased to tell everybody that we already received grant funding from the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania to do a pedestrian plaza at Front and Cecil B. Moore. We're working with ISA and fabricators now to create a space, and I see our friend Steve Lorenz from Streets is on. They've been very helpful with us in putting this together. And our goal there is to take an intersection that is going to be a big area of development in 2023 and have a space that can be utilized by the public with fabricated furniture, a mural on the ground, greening, lighting, you name it. And it really is a way to capture the outdoor vibe of the space. We're hopeful that we will be breaking ground and working on that for some type of completion in spring or summer. And then we've also filed a grant, which you're going to hear about tonight, for Front and Girard. And that is certainly an intersection that I know for many of you that has been one that has been up for heavy debate. Our goal, and we want to thank our partners with SEPTA who are with us tonight, for working with us to find ways to beautify, to fill in spaces with artistic components, practical components, lighting components that also gives us a great use, but also keeps people moving to and from this very highly trafficked intersection. And then lastly, we're going to be filing a grant for our portion of Frankford and Lehigh. Why am I saying this? Well, now 2023, it's time to go back with ISA again and look to how we can start hitting other areas. And East Girard is certainly an area that is primed for discussion, and it's primed for really how we can help activate that and bring that to its true potential. What is so great about our commercial corridor, as you all know, is that not just each block, but each intersection has its own personality, its own vibe. What you would do on Girard and Berks, for example, is certainly going to be very different than Frankford and York. And that's great. And that allows us to do a lot of possibilities, but all those possibilities start with simple engagement. And that's why we're here tonight, is to start the process, by no means finish it. Because what we talk about tonight and the suggestions that you will give us, and I'll go through our procedure in a minute, we're going to take that back to ISA. And we're going to start working on triggering some of these ideas so that 2023 we're moving for funding as we're finishing up the work of the other grants. And that's really a wonderful thing, because a bid shouldn't just be about street cleaning and events and other things. It's about working with all of you to ensure the long-term growth and success of this corridor. And that means protecting the time, talent, and treasure of the people that have invested here, that live here, that work here. So we're thrilled to kind of go through a few things tonight. A couple procedural things, and then I'm going to get started. We're going to keep everybody on mute. So please make sure you mute while we're going. There will be ample time for Q&A and comment at the end. Also, we will have presentations. Steve, the Streets Department is here. David Fechto, our old friend from Planning Commission, is here to listen in, certainly take notes and see how we all can work together in our plan. And certainly SEPTA is here. And they're going to be all weighing in. Not sure if PennDOT has joined us. They have? Yes. Why, thank you, Kay. I see Elaine. In fact, so what we're going to do is we're going to start to go before I'm going to honor the time of our guests. So I'll actually go last about some of the stuff the bid is doing. I appreciate everybody's time. So if we can start, I want to say she's probably the hardest working gal in government and showbiz these days. That's Elaine Elbeck, who is really having the yeoman, and I give her all the credit in the world, all the great work she's doing and try to not only pull the I-95 project together, but bring in and weigh all neighborhood concerns so that she's trying to make this good for everybody. And we know that's not easy to do. So I want to turn it over just for a few minutes. If Elaine, we're really here focusing tonight on Girard Avenue from I-95 all the way down to Front. If there's anything you want to share about I-95 and some of the things that you're doing, that would be amazing. So thanks for being with us tonight.
Okay, you're welcome. Thanks, Mark. Appreciate the intro. I think everybody's working really hard these days. It's a crazy new world. So if I can share screen, I don't know if it, hold on one second. Hold on one second, I got you. If it'll let me do that. So if you're good to go, it's sharing. Let me just see here. Okie doke. Might be doing it one by one. Okay, so here's just quick, right? We just did a recent public virtual meetings on the Girard Avenue interchange, mostly because we're moving south and everybody's not hearing from us every day now in the Fishtown neighborhood area. But we haven't gone away. The interchange literally is a 3-mile stretch. And you can see it in here. We're going all the way down to like Old City. So from Ray Street all the way up to Allegheny. And we've completed a lot. You can see from the bar, it shows us today, 2022, almost the end of the year. Wow, right? Who would think? It's already December. We finished up everything in the interchange. What's in blue, the first phase, the second phase in green. We finished up the orange, which is the third phase, and then also, what we call is purple, I guess. So here we are connecting up, and there's still some work yet to be done, right? I mean, there's final touches that have to go into, that north end of Girard where it comes into the interchange. The SEPTA Route 15 trolley isn't running yet. There's a few things, stormwater management we're doing. So what I would tell you is we're moving into the south end now. There's still some effects, right? Because we're running parallel to Girard Avenue. There's a couple of city streets only in there that run that same parallel route. The next phases are going to be out of order, 6 first and then 5. And there's quite some overlap because SEPTA's Market Frankford is in the middle of the highway. So we are looking at overlapping construction sections. So we will actually not have to finish them, concurrently, and we can overlap and we should be done hopefully, right, by 2030. Real quick, right, this is what gives you a snapshot of what's involved. So you're running right parallel. This is 2nd Street. Girard is going to pick up like right off of the page here, underneath the legend. But this construction, right, in this area reconstructs everything. Again, 95, the entire bridge, retaining walls, fill green section spaces, and all these streets will be impacted. We've got, I guess, in the next, I'm trying to focus in. So like what we've got is an open website for, it's a virtual meeting room. We're looking for feedback from everybody. So if you take a snapshot of this screen, or if you just go to 95 Revive, I'll have another chance to give you that website address as we go through. This is what people are seeing right today. So this is what's in Fishtown. These are the underpass treatments. I think what we're trying to do is facilitate people, not just to Girard Avenue. So to tie it back to what Mark is trying to do, is that we're looking forward to have all of these underpasses to connect to the riverfront, right? So as you're coming down Girard, you know, you actually have that base that if someone goes to Girard, they can actually make it out towards, you know, the waterfront as well. You know, make that a more, what would you say, pleasurable, more pedestrian friendly, bike friendly option for folks. So I've got things on different screens here. So I'm looking ahead, but not looking ahead. Stormwater management is what people are seeing. And I think that's a big factor at the end of Girard Avenue, you know, how that's all going to be maintained. There's homeless issues. We've got 2 different types of facilities out there. So it's not all landscaping, it's stormwater management. We've got university partnerships. So we talk about that. They're in the mix still for a part of the maintenance and operations of those facilities. And that's going to continue as we go through this interchange, you know, reconstruction. So that'll be years yet. We'll be monitoring, working with them. So we have a partner there that's going to help with management. We have a contract to kind of manage needles, hazardous mat cleanup. And then we also will have an overall lease agreement with the city, right? I mean, there's going to be a joint use lease, and hopefully through the, you know, channels, we'll be able to have like a property manager. You know, this is a DRWC territory, and we're working through a lot of those fine points. I didn't point out some of those areas that are going to be like Spring Garden and 2nd Street. I mean, that's not on Girard. So there's a lot that goes into that south end and Ray Street connectors. But this is an opportunity to give us any comments that you have about what you think, you know, 95 or the Girard Avenue, the north end. We're still taking comments about the entire project. So if you go in the virtual meeting room, you want to know what's happening on the next sections, 5 and 6, you can always be sure to comment about the other section that's, you know, still wrapping up. Timeline, I think, Mark, I got to say, wishful thinking, we want to be done. The interchange, the next 2 weeks, right? Weather permitting, that will be done, everything north of Frankford, all the way up to Allegheny. A couple few, you know, tweaks, but very, very minor. No one will notice.
Awesome. Thank you, Elaine. Elaine, are there any, I know you guys just had a public meeting about a week ago. Are there any scheduled that you can share, or anything upcoming that you can share for everyone?
Well, so I didn't have it on, let me just go back real quick. I didn't have it on the radar, but as you go into 23, we've got probably spring, another public outreach near neighbors. So we border Fishtown and Northern Liberties right down there at Frankford. So I think, you know, we're expecting everyone, you know, to have an interest, and we'll be trying to do in person, but, you know, at a minimum, it's definitely going to be virtual meetings, and we'll be sending out notices, you know, sometime early spring. And by that, I mean, maybe, you know, late February, early March.
Great. Elaine, thank you as always. Well, for everyone's, just so again, the way we always like to do this is have all the presenters present and then have our leave time for Q&A at the end. So when it comes time, if you have something you want to ask to Elaine, make a note of it now. And at the end, we'll call on you to put your hand up. Elaine, thanks again for your time. I know it's very, very limited these days. So we appreciate you taking the time to join us.
Yeah, 95 never sleeps.
No, it does not. And
Thank
I
you.
want to give Elaine a compliment because with all that's going on, she never says no for an opportunity to try to talk about a community concern, about a property concern. So know that we appreciate you.
Yeah. What I would mention, right, Mark, that we're always open communications. So I think anyone out there that's got, between Fishtown, Northern Liberties, between, Fishtown Bid, if there's any issues, let us know. But there's a lot of development happening. I just want to put that out there, right? So it's, chicken and the egg, who gets there first. So 95 is not always there first. Developers are getting there before us, and we're trying to work with them. So there's a lot happening, in the Fishtown area with Beach Street, the Battery. You got North Bank. There's even a few, right, that are popping up. There's one right behind the gas station at Aramingo and York, I believe. So there's a lot of high-rise, large buildings, and the one in Frankford in Delaware.
Yes.
There's Wells Meats as well, right? Is that 918 Delaware too? Wells House. I mean, there's a lot of websites and a lot of proposals out there. Just trying to stay ahead of it and coordinate with it all.
So we appreciate you doing that, and I'm sure we'll be talking very soon.
Yep.
Next up, and I think it's a perfect follow-up. I know Wendy doesn't feel so great, but we appreciate her joining us. Certainly with SEPTA, that's always, there's a lot of changes coming, certainly a lot of improvements that they're going to be starting or have started at our L stop in front in Girard. And of course, we have the return of trolleys, which is always a question for everybody. So this is a chance to kind of get a little bit of an update and a head start on things. So Wendy, thanks for joining us tonight.
Certainly, thanks for having me. And again, I apologize for my voice sounding the way that it does. So at Front and Girard, we have a project in design in our engineering group to relocate the roto gates that are at the top of the steps, relocating them to street level. This will hopefully help with minimizing loitering on the steps. As you know, now you can just enter into the exit area from the street level, and it causes really safety problems with people coming down the steps. So we hope to have that project up and going within probably the next 12 to 24 months. So just relocating the rotor gates to street level. You asked about trolley return. They are still being refurbished at our Woodland shop. The last information I got was that we're still targeting to have them restart on in 2023, the latter part of 2023. But that's certainly an approximation, and there will be more to come about that when they actually do return. So they are still being refurbished. We do still plan to have them back online, but not until the latter part of 23. Just want to do a quick commercial about another, not necessarily project directly on Girard Avenue, but SEPTA will be repainting the L structure, really from Warmrath all the way up to Frankford Transportation Center. It will be done in 2 phases. The first phase is from Warmrath kind of up to the Kensington Avenue area. That phase, there's there will be shrouding of the L, but the traffic lanes will be open, the parking lanes will be open. Phase 2 will be a little bit different because of the configuration of the street and the way the street is not as wide going toward FTC. That one has not yet been bid yet, so we don't really have a start date yet, but if you want to know, we'll certainly let you know when that takes place. The whole structure the whole project really has to be completed by July of 2024. So the phase 1, you may start to see mobilization next week with the shrouding of the L, but everything will be contained under a cloth. We expect the work hours to be 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. Monday through Sunday because of the pretty aggressive deadline for it to be finished. And it will be SEPTA blue.
Wendy, will that be front and Girard as well?
Yes,
Okay.
yes. I'm sorry, I thought Warm Up was a little bit south of front or east. East, I'm sorry.
That's all right.
East. Next thing I think I sent you the link. There will be Bus Revolution is also a project that's ongoing. Lots of things going on except right now. There is a Zoom meeting on December 13th at 6:30. And that will be specifically for discussion about the proposed bus network redesign for the River Wards and Kensington area. We are working on coordinating an in-person meeting probably in January, but there will be the Zoom meeting on the 13th. So, Mark, if you don't mind, could you put the registration link in the chat, and folks who want to register for that can do so.
You got it.
Thank you so much.
No, thank you. And I see some hands up again. We're gonna knock out speakers and then we're gonna do all Q&A. Keep your hand up because we'll make sure to call on you when the time comes. I see Marie and Kareem already there, so we won't forget you. Question, Wendy, regarding the L stop. Obviously, a lot of the infrastructure on Girard Avenue is there, track, the different lifts and stations. Or is any work that being planned on the street itself or on those things?
I mean, other than when the roto gates get moved to the street level, I'm not aware of any, structural projects at this particular time.
And I know this is, and you guys have been great because we're going to get to our front and Girard portion in a minute. Would SEPTA certainly be open to discussing if the bid was interested in doing some beautification or enhancements to those, those stops in the street to make it maybe safer, make them more noticeable, that type of thing?
Sure, we would be happy to have a discussion about, what your thoughts were about that. You're talking about at the L? You're talking about on the L, or you talking about?
Well, actually, more talking about the for the trolleys.
Oh, Girard. Okay, sure. I mean, certainly safety is always our first. Making sure things are safe is always our first goal. So, yeah, we can. If there's some safe beautification modifications, we can discuss them.
Thank you as always. Save your voice. Hopefully we won't have too many questions for you.
Okay, thank you.
Lastly, I want to thank Steve Lorenz from the Streets Department for joining us. Steve and Richard Montanez were kind enough to come out a few weeks back. We kind of looked at the areas at Girard and Columbia, Girard and Berks, regarding which really are problems we've seen all the way up and down Girard Avenue, which is confusion in turning and maybe people's confusion as to which lanes are turning lanes. So I was very thrilled that certainly Rich and Steve, as always, were always open to trying to help and talked about some painting things that I'll let him describe. So Steve, the floor is yours.
Yeah. Good evening, Mark. Good evening, everybody. Yeah, my name's Steve Lorenz. I'm the Chief Highway Engineer for the City of Philadelphia Streets Department. About a month or so, Mark invited myself and Deputy Commissioner Rich Montanez out to Berks and Girard with concern of vehicle crashes from folks making left turns from the far right lane. Putting signage up is challenging to do because where do you put it to see the signs? So what we're going to do probably in the spring is paint some arrows out on Girard Avenue, just to indicate the motorists that they need to continue going straight. We're not sure if that'll solve all the problems, but at least for folks that are coming into the neighborhood and do not know the area, it may help some. And as always, Mark reaches out to Rich and myself for any type of problems that are in that area, and we have a good communication going. So, if it's all right with Mark, I wouldn't mind just that process continuing.
Steve, always appreciate you guys. Would the painting be able to, because we talked about even extending it, or to Columbia, Marlboro, etc.
Yeah,
Would that be able to be done?
I'm going to look at to see what we need to do to go. I'm thinking maybe down to Frankford, not Frankfurt itself, but right before Frankford,
Sure.
and see what we can do to minimize some of those left turns. I'll get the quantity together and then order the material over winter.
Perfect. Also, is there any projects that of the streets is working on for East Girard, or things that they're planning?
Not at this time. I know we putting the paving program together for next year. One of the small areas that we are going to pave is off of Girard Avenue, going down towards I-95. I think, what's the name of that street? Wildly. Thank you, Wildy. Yeah, so we're going to be doing a lot of those small streets that are in that pocket. Hopefully that, I know the neighborhood's been going underneath a lot of issues with regard because of the traffic on I-95 diversions and just difficultly getting through the neighborhood, not only from the 95 construction, but just from development that's occurring in there as well. So, we have a little bit of, thanks to Councilman Squilla, we were able to secure a little bit of funding just to go into that pocket there and do some of that work.
Well, much appreciated. Question I always have, and you're the guy to answer it, and you may not be able to answer it in full now, because obviously, parking is always at a premium, especially in our neighborhood. Is there ability on one side of the street or the other? I always thought, like, could angled parking ever be implemented? Now, I know we have the trolleys and other things.
Now, it's not wide, believe it or not, Girard Avenue is not wide enough for, the 2 lanes of traffic going up and down and angle parking. The rule of thumb with angle parking is you have to be able to angle park without interfering with the travel lane. So it's more of a maneuvering move and backing in and out. So that way you do not, interfere with traffic that's trying to pass you. It's very few spots within the city that can actually happen, even back in angle parking. You have front end angle parking and you have the back end angle parking. Back end angle parking is a little bit more forgiving, but it's still, you need a wide street. The one that jumps out at me most right now is, believe it or not, South Philadelphia, 11th Street, north and south of Washington. That's an old, industrial roadway. Over the years, and there's no more industry down there, so it's wide enough, for the back end angle parking.
Got it. Now you've answered it.
Okay.
To me, it always seemed like that could be, even if it was on one side of the street, would be such an easy answer. But
right.
I know with all that, especially with the trolley coming back, I guess that would really make it impossible.
Yes.
Steve, thanks so much. If
Sure.
you don't mind hanging for.
No, I'll be here.
We're gonna do some bid stuff, and then I want to let everybody have a chance to weigh in and ask their questions. So
Sure, that's not a
thanks
problem.
for all that you do, Steve.
Yep. Thank you.
So for the bid, obviously what our job is, besides working with all these great folks, is to try to use our resources to best result. I wanted to turn immediately to our master plan with ISA and Front and Girard. We worked very closely, certainly with the Department of Streets, SEPTA, Planning Commission, and certainly our stakeholders in and around the area. And one of the things that you see in the picture here is kind of how it looks now. And one of the things that we notice, obviously, is there's a lot of open spaces, and a lot of open spaces that can result in loitering and people being there when we want people getting off the L, going to and from our businesses. And it also can use lighting, different type of artistic enhancements to, think of this way, thousands of people come to and from this transportation hub every day. It's the first thing they see of our neighborhood. And we want to make sure, as you all do, that we're all taking pride in it. As it happens, as Wendy from SEPTA pointed out, they're going to be doing enhancements with moving the gates, painting it, beautifying it, all SEPTA blue. So it was a perfect opportunity for us to try to move forward to implement some plans. If you go to the next. So this is just sort of a schematic of what it looks like on both sides of the L stop on East Girard, some of the things that we had to face. If you can go to the next one. Same thing on the other side as we move forward. And one of the things you'll see where the arrows is, where can we accentuate, highlight, and hopefully, fulfill the goals that the neighborhood wants. Okay, if you can go ahead. Why don't we skip that one? I don't think So what you first see there is one of the ways that we are able to help productively, we believe, cut into some dead spaces. So what you see there on the one side of East Girard Avenue is an actual type of kiosk structure that we would create, and SEPTA was kind enough to sign off on to allow us to do this, that it would extend right to the sidewalk. Right there, now it's just a big opening with a kind of knocked over bike rack. What you see is sort of the artistic creations in our master plan. And by the way, if we've certainly put it out there quite a bit, our annual report's coming. If you've not seen it and you want to see it, please just email me at marc@fishtownbid.org. We're happy to send it. But those markings are actually the designs of the different intersections of our commercial corridor. We're using those as part of the actual expression and art that we're going to put on and in the ground. And that kiosk we're actually going to use to house our Fishtown ambassadors. As you're going to hear in a little bit as we expand that program this year, that's going to be the meeting hub. So these folks will be there not just as concierges to welcome people and to give out the brochures that we have, but also take complaints, guide people while others are on patrol, for those that don't know, and they check in with our businesses. And they're there to assist. We call them our help squad. And if they see an issue, whether it's someone in distress, maybe somebody who needs help with food or housing or a criminal situation, these guys are equipped with just a phone and Narcan, and they will contact the necessary authorities to get that person or people the help that they need, while also all of them are trained in the up-to-date de-escalation techniques. So their job is, they're not policemen, they're not just simply to calm a situation and help and get help. And certainly has worked well. So now we're going to have a station for them where you can go. And I think it's a big kind of a cute design that we put with it. Okay, if you can flip. That's it. Well, there's also one on the other side of the street that's going to look similar to what you see there. And that's a type of cubicle that will try to put something productive in there, whether it's food or a cool retail spot. It's just a way to really activate and accelerate and beautify. Also in the street, we're going to be using some of those intersection markings that we have for Front Girard to paint some things and also put some artistic lighting. And I want to be clear, this is to highlight, this is not to blind, but to accentuate the area so it's beautiful, but it keeps it well lit for safety purposes. What we're thrilled about is we filed a grant for that, for a Keystone Communities grant back in February or March of this year. We should hear any day, and from knock wood, the comments I've heard from our colleagues at the Department of Community and Economic Development, this grant will be viewed very favorably. Having said that, we hope that we'll be able to start doing our actual work with it also spring and summer of 2023. So there'll be significant changes to an area that I know that has always been something that we always hear questions about, whether it's dumping or trash accumulation. We have Ready, Willing, and Able that comes through every day, 5 days a week, but also safety issues and crime issues. This is a way that we as a commercial corridor can help address those and hopefully make it easier for for public transportation and law enforcement to also get a better handle on things. Thanks, Kay. That's all we need for that one. Moving forward, one of the things when we talked about the ambassador program, when we started it earlier than really our budget would allow, sadly, because of the situations that we're dealing with in the corridor, both during the day and late at night. We had originally just started it to make sure our nightlife areas had extra patrol, so that we used to affectionately call them our hush squad, that they were keeping people quiet coming to and from our bars and keep them respectful of the people and their property in our neighborhood. Also, they worked so well with our bars and restaurants that they have their own communication system that they can identify problem situations and work together to resolve them. And it worked so well with the problems that we're having. We started it during the day. We started it during the day on Frankford Avenue from Girard down to Palmer down to Front back down to Girard, and then back down. Well, we understand certainly that is not enough. So I'm going to introduce Scott in a second, Scott Nistico, who's really one of the, I met Scott at an event we were doing with Evil Genius, our Back to the Future Day. Where we had original movie artifacts there, including the original DeLorean. And Scott's team was there to guard them. And I was so very impressed with the way that they were. You knew they were there, but they weren't. And they were how respectful and calming they were with people. So Scott and I started to talk, and immediately we spent the next 6 months coming up with this plan, that these individuals are meant to do just that, to provide you and help you in any way that they can. And I'm going to give Scott some extra props. You've heard us talk about, I hope you've heard us talk about that, within a week of launching them during the day, his team helped stop a home invasion right around the corner from us, simply by hearing a woman scream for help. But the one that I saw personally was there was an individual who appeared to be in some distress emotionally. In fact, had actually ran over and took a swing at one of the ambassadors. But they simply calmed him, and he was sitting in front of my office. And Sloan, who's one of our major ambassadors, and some of they just sat down with him. And he said, "It looks like you need someone to talk to. I'm going to sit with you here as long as you need." And got this gentleman to reveal that he was in the throes of addiction, that his family had thrown him out, and no one was there to help him. And Sloan immediately took his phone out and said, "I'm here and we're here for you now. And if you want to make a change to save your life, I'm going to make that call to help you save your life. And if it's today, if it's tomorrow, if it's whatever it is, we're going to do that." And that so impressed me, because it's about, to me, we have to treat everyone with respect here. And that's what we want to be known for. And they took the time, it was an hour, to talk to this gentleman and get him on the course to want to go and receive help. So Scott, I want to thank you. I want to let you introduce yourself, but we also want to talk about, as 2023 begins, one of the things that we will be enhancing is our patrols on Girard Avenue from Front all the way down past Burke's. So Scott, if you just want to say a few words, say hi. I think I talked you up enough.
Oh, by all means, continue. No, actually, very little of the credit should go to me, Mark. You know that. You're the one who came up with this program, and I've been fortunate enough to have wonderful guys that from the community that wanted to take part in it. So right now, the results, we track this on internal chat groups. Some we share with the businesses on a regular daily basis. So we see what goes on every day. expanding this program both days and nights, gosh, even farther than what we've originally planned. It's going to be a good thing, and I certainly want to be available for any of you that want to give me feedback on what things you see in your areas that you specifically think we could be of more help with. If we have to improve skill sets, give these guys something else that they can help focus on to make your area, as Mark said, each part sort of has its own personality. Please reach out and let me know. I'm on the email that got you here today. So by all means, use it, reach out. I won't take too much of your time unless anyone has any direct questions at the end.
Scott, and I know you're good with this. Would you mind giving everybody your number in case everybody, and this number is, if you're seeing something out in our neighborhood that you think needs some help or you need some help, even if they're patrolling somewhere else, we'll get them over to you. So Scott, can you give out your number for everybody?
Sure. 215-688-6069. Again, this is my personal cell, and I answer if you call. If for some reason you don't get a direct answer, make sure you send me a text ahead of time with your name. I'll send you over the full contact so you can save it. And I definitely encourage you guys to reach out. Use this as often as you can. 215-688-60.
Thank you, Scott. And listen, we're certainly very lucky that we've been graced and humbled to receive a lot of media attention about it. So much so that the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania will be asking Scott and I to talk to corridors throughout the southeast of Pennsylvania. I've even talked to, I know Wendy's on there actually, you know, Wendy, when we went to the Phillies game, even Leslie talked to us about possibly bringing something like that, this type of concept to different areas. So we're thrilled. We're not where we want to be, but it's all part of what's coming. Also, we want to make sure, so for the first quarter of 2023, before I get to our conservatorship property, one of the things in 2023 we also did was we, with the permission of property owners, installed security cameras on many different locations throughout Frankford Avenue, and started to talk about security cameras, including the ones that we have at Front and Girard. And those have been so invaluable in helping to enhance feelings of public safety for stakeholders, business owners, workers, patrons, residents, helped identify some suspects in some major crimes. So, and we were fortunate enough to be able to use the City of Philadelphia's Business Security Grant Program, where they will reimburse us for half. Well, just like with our master plan, we are going to be expanding that this year. And this year we're going to be hitting the intersections of Girard Avenue, Marlborough, Columbia, Berks, etc. So we'll make that announcement. We actually already have initial quotes from Omega Security. We're just going to revise those and then go through and get what happens, we have to get consent from the property owners, make our submission to the city, and once we approve, we begin. And each year we're going to add to different areas. So the goal is that we're covering, if not all, most of the intersections throughout our commercial corridor. Same thing, one of the big problems that we've had is, you know, sometimes no good deed goes unpunished. Kay worked very hard with FNA, and I know several of you are here today, with expanding the fish head trash can program. And we had received a grant from the Penn Treaty Special Services District to add, with the 20 new cans, Kay?
Yes.
All with special, you know, we picked, you know, artists submitted, we picked these beautiful designs. And since then we had one on, for example, on Girard in Columbia. At first we were having problems with people actually just stealing the fish heads. Now they're taking the entire trash cans. So in the first quarter of 2023, we will be replenishing the stolen fish head trash cans while adding more. And certainly there's going to be someone, for example, Girard and Berks, and filling it in throughout Girard Avenue and parts of the corridor. So stay tuned for that. So if you were wondering Many of you opened your doors one day. I know I talked to Krista Pinto. He's like, where did that trash can go? And I happened to be there that day. I'm like, oh, well, it was stolen. So, but we will be bringing them back, and we'll find ways to better secure them. One of the last things before we open it up to all of you, we're going to cross our fingers on that one. Many of you may know that through a legislative tool that I was privileged enough to work on when I worked in the House of Representatives, we used a tool called the Conservatorship Act to go to court and to get court approval to take a blighted vacant property, to fix it up, bring it up to code, and ultimately get it back into productive use. No properly screamed out more to me than the 401-05 East Girard, which was the old Mission Brotherhood, which had been vacant since 2018. Having been in there before we filed and ultimately got appointed, it was a horror show. People had been breaking in, things had been causing problems, things had been broken, causing drainage problems to adjacent properties. So Judge Butchart of the Court of Common Pleas, with our work with Sholi Turco, which is a nonprofit that does conservatorships, we were appointed to take control of this property after a lengthy procedure. We did our initial cleanup work. Many of you may have seen the dumpsters that were out there that day. We thank everybody for their patience. We now return on December 19th to go to court, where we're at the final stages of an out sale. The bid will not be anyway a purchaser of this property, but as a steward of this corridor, our job is to make sure that a good owner with good development plan is brought in. And there are a few that have done that wish to push 1 to 2 commercial units on the lower level, and then have at least 8 or so residential units above. And one of the things that was important to us, and certainly in talking to a lot of the neighbors, was how do we do this with first the least amount of disruption to the neighborhood and to the surrounding properties, who have certainly been put upon enough, but also can we, without tearing it down, can we restore this? Okay, if you can pull up the pictures I sent you. We were able to find through the City of Philadelphia archives what this property looked like in the 1950s. So as you can see, that's the corner. In some ways it look kind of the same. If you can flip that, Kay, or scroll down. That's the side of the property. That's the front, and we should have a full view coming. And our job, minus obviously the crossing stuff, so forth, is to try to restore this to its classic look while ensuring that there is a modern vibe and neighborhood accessibility. So before we go through with anything, we will come back and make sure that we present the design. But the goal is obviously for the court and for ourselves is that this is made safe for all, made sturdy, made to last, and that we are bringing in the type of developer that is going to bring the type of businesses and properties that we want. So we'll have better information after the 19th, but we wanted you to see what this can come back to. And the reason why that is important is we felt it was important as a bid, and I don't think most do this, is we want to be part of the rejuvenation and activation of certain areas. And this tool allowed us to take this property that would have been sitting, and we were very lucky that we were able to work with our municipal, state, and federal partners to bring liens down to a reasonable level that everyone could be paid and made whole while ensuring that this work is being done. So stay tuned for hopefully a formal announcement on December 19th of the final. But what we're already seeing on that block, we are, across the street, you have Milk Crate Cafe. Myers Brewing is there. La Chicanita opened. Well, now we're going to have another restaurant coming called Elma, but at 431. A block over at on the 300 block, we're going to have, I believe it's called Gilda, the new Portuguese restaurant. And that really is what makes us feel the most satisfaction, is we're starting to see that growth come to that area. Just as we're starting to see it, we were concerned as we push towards Lehigh. Well, if you go to York Street, the 2400 block of Frankford, same thing. It is like a brand new area. And that's because we've been able to work with very dedicated, ethical developers to do things that matter and bring projects that matter. Again, if we can make sure everybody's on mute, we're going to try this now. Marie, you have had your hand up. So when we're going to call on you one by one. If you have a question in one of our panelists, please let us know. Please, as always, be respectful to everyone taking the time here. And also, if you have a suggestion, do not be afraid to pass it on, because come 2023, there will be future meetings with our master planner, ISA architects, to show you some designs that we believe will take some of these concepts here tonight into action. So Marie, go ahead.
Okay. Eileen showed a picture of Columbia Avenue with the turtles and everything. Are they responsible for them?
So that was a PennDOT thing, Elaine.
Yep, I heard that. So Columbia Avenue with the turtles, they're the bases of the light fixtures. So those light fixtures are a partnership with Delaware River Waterfront Corporation. The form liners were also part of that, gateway plan. But the turtles themselves are maintenance and owned by, I guess, a city agency.
Okay, because somebody's trying to steal the first turtle.
I know. So we, right, you never know. We have access, we have the building nearby, right? There's a lot of different entities and a few changeovers. The 95 project has a lot of archaeology in the area.
Yeah.
So we are now monitoring that area a lot more closely. And as Mark alluded to, right, there's security cameras that the city's coordinating with, and setting up different locations. So anybody who's listening or watching, right, we will be repairing that as part of the project. I think we're asking the contractor to possibly go back and see if it wasn't secured enough and resecure it. However, the maintenance and ownership of it, as soon as this project closes out at the end of the year, in Girard Avenue, like that southbound fourth phase, it'll turn over to DRWC for maintenance and ownership. But we are, like I said, we have properties in that area that we will be monitoring, and this will be one of those areas.
Okay, and the other question was the turtle and the wolf. Who's responsible for them?
The turkey and the
The
wolf.
turkey,
Yes,
the wolf.
right, no worries. Turkey and the wolf, they are also part of the Delaware River Waterfront Corporation.
Okay, because they
again,
need to turn them looking at each other instead of looking at 95. Somebody
yeah,
turned them to look directly at 95, blank wall.
figures, right? Okay, I'll get on that. Thank you. Like Mark said, thank you for letting us know.
Yeah, I love my turtles.
Everybody does. They're wonderful to have that, unexpected, right?
Yes.
Unexpected. And it was definitely something that we thought helps us with the gateway to Penn Treaty Park, which is, historic in its own right.
No, that's a trail of the redback turtles.
Right.
Thank you. That's it.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Marie. Thanks, Elaine. John Geeting.
Hey, everybody. Thanks so much for making the time to talk with us about this. I think we're all pretty interested in Girard Avenue too. I run the Fishtown Neighbors Association, and one thing I've noticed over the years is like Girard's such a tough street to maintain, businesses on, because it's so wide and so loud, and it's just like a much less pleasant place to walk than Frankfurt or even Front Street. And I think that a lot of it has to do with the street design itself. I know that we have the trolley modernization project coming up that I'm very excited about, because I'm hoping that this can be a chance to really transform what kind of street Girard Avenue is. The trolley platforms I know need to go from about 4 feet wide to about 8 feet wide. which means that a lot of the the street needs to get kind of shrunken up. And I've seen some in some other cities, that presents an opportunity when you have those floating bus islands. Sorry, my son's going crazy on my bike bell here. Frank, don't do that.
That's not the
to
worst
have,
interruption we've had tonight.
Yeah, right. Much more low key than what came before. But that those floating islands oftentimes present like an opportunity to have protected bike lanes going behind those floating islands. So like I think I'm hoping that we can get the best possible version of Girard Avenue from a transit standpoint, in terms of dedicated lanes for the trolleys so that they're not getting caught in general traffic. Daddy, and also finally get enough for you to give me this air? Yes, it is. Finally get some protected bike infrastructure in the neighborhood, because the DRWC and the city did that excellent Delaware River Trail over there. I use it every day, but there's no good way, no good safe connection to get there from any point in Fishtown. And I'm hoping that if we could get protected bike lanes on Girard as part of that trolley modernization program, if I'm going to say something unpopular here, but if we could nix one of the parking lanes between Girard and Delaware Ave on Frankford, so that there's an easy ride from Fishtown to the trail over there, I think we could be getting somewhere. But I think a lot of what I'm saying right now might be anathema to some of our traffic engineer friends at PennDOT, and I anticipate some official resistance to some of the things I'm saying. So it's good to start this conversation. I anticipate that it will be hard to get what I envision would make the street more walkable and bikeable, but I'm hoping we can work together to do that and get some flexibility from the state and from the streets department on some of these things.
Thank you, John. And just from our perspective, as many of you know, and certainly John knows this, whenever we've done any of our working groups for our master plan, many of the, in fact, all of the speakers that you heard tonight were all part of them, because a plan is only as good as if you're able to implement it. So I want to thank everyone again, and certainly we're going to do this as we move forward next year with our Girard discussions, John, is all these fine folks, I'm hoping will continue to join us so that we can find these good solutions. We may not always get everything, but I think we can find some great solutions as we have in the past to bring together a plan. So you're right, John. I want to reemphasize, this is just the very beginning of the discussion. So there'll be more to come. And one thing I want to hit, because certainly John and I worked very heavily on the issue of parking and parking regulations. I'm not going to go back through the history, but there were many meetings. And certainly the council president has sent a letter over previously to the PPA recommending what we had recommended from the PPA parking studies, which was 3-hour regulated parking on Frankford Avenue from Allen to Jefferson and Girard from Marlborough to Front without a meter. I believe that would be from 8 a.m. to midnight, with the understanding that if you had a residential parking permit, you would not have to worry about a fine or a meter or et cetera. One of the things that the council president felt strong about was bringing about increased fines for anybody who may violate that. So we're in the process now of getting that legislation for that portion drawn so that we can proceed with the pilot program. We'll certainly keep everybody informed, but certainly a lot of hard work was put in by a lot of people to get to this point, and hopefully that will start to make some difference even for a portion of the avenue. Bob Everett, question, you have your hand up.
Yeah, thanks, Mark. I noticed recently, I'm going to assume it was PennDOT, at the base of the southbound 95 off-ramp that exits onto Girard Avenue, right where Aramingo and Fletcher Street all combine there. They put up some flex posts, but they only go about maybe 20 feet from the end of the ramp itself. Is that the technical end of the state's jurisdiction there on the off-ramp? Well, I'm just thinking for immediate help there for U-turns, if they brought that all the way down to Susky you would nip some of the issues with traffic in the bud. And I'll leave all the rest for the Burke Street intersection for later because that's more involved. I don't know if that's state and city working together, or if that was just something that was to keep people from hitting that pole at the bottom of the off ramp. That's it.
Because I'm trying to picture, this is on Girard Avenue as you're approaching, I guess, 95 ramp to go under.
Oh, yeah. Key in 817 East Girard, and
Okay.
you'll see the base of the ramp.
I don't want to have this thing shut down on me, but let me just see if it'll work. And I can always get back to you if it doesn't.
I mean, there's a yellow reflective, flex post. So, and there is a post for the overhead, for the Aramingo overpass there. I couldn't tell if they were trying to just try to prevent U-turns there because there's still a boatload of them, or if it was to get people away from that center post there when they're going eastbound to cross the Girard Avenue Bridge towards Richmond Street.
Okay, yeah, you're saying eastbound. Okay, yeah, we did put flexible posts because a lot of people were, like you said, making U-turns. Some were coming out of that side street, right? And then trying to swoop over and either take Girard or, cut over to be able to get onto.
Well, the way they put them,
across.
it's not stopping the U-turns because they're only going about 20 feet past and you can still do it.
Yeah, no, I think you bring up a point. We've identified it too. I don't think it's a jurisdictional issue. I think we're still trying to figure out, where and what and how far it should continue as you're going, I guess, towards the city.
Yeah.
So I'll take it under advisement. Our construction team, I don't have them with me tonight, but it has come up before. I know we looked at it, and I know we were obviously working with the city on this. So I'll follow back up on it and see if that's the final on it. I don't think it was a jurisdictional thing. I think it was just more or less what everybody felt could be done. But I'll make a point that things are not, I guess.
We were all
resolved.
excited to see it, so that's good. I mean, if they want to go back and relook at it and reconsider it, that's great. All right, thanks.
Yeah, I'll have them take I know that it was in the works. I don't know if it's final the way you see it or whether it's still, being resolved. So I'll follow up.
Thank you, Elaine. Thank you, Bob. Mr. Curtin, you're up.
I just had two quick, oh, am I still muted?
Sure, go ahead.
Yep, we can hear you.
We can hear you.
Very good.
This her DNA were on the wine bottle that was used.
You're muted now, Mr. Curtin.
Oh, he's claiming that.
Nice try. I'll rate him, we'll get an indictment. Looks good to test.
Above Palmer, on the underneath of the construction of 95, I was impressed, and I would imagine anybody who sees it is impressed with the amount of lighting at night under 95. I was just wondering, is something like that sustainable? I mean, that's the way it's going to be going into the future?
It is. Those are LED lights, so they're providing us a lot brighter light. I think LED lights, as everybody knows, some of these projects have come out 2013 and 2017, so products are always improving themselves.
Mm-hmm.
So I think what you're seeing is like the brighter LED light, and that's expected, right? We have warranties, but we're hoping that's going to last us, the next several years.
So it doesn't cost as much as what lighting used to cost because it's LED.
Right.
My other question was about the corner at Front and Girard. Anybody who is a pedestrian through that corner or drives a car through it knows that at times it can be absolute mayhem. And part of the problem is the unrestricted pedestrians crossing Girard Avenue at any time. Has there ever been any the possibility of putting up some kind of railing that would restrict pedestrians to crossing at a certain area? Is that something that's feasible?
Steve Lorenz, I'm going to point to you to see if, did you hear that question, Steve?
Yeah, I did. Good afternoon. Not afternoon anymore. Good evening. Yeah, the challenge with putting railings up to prohibit pedestrians to cross, you run into the risk of folks still doing the same thing, crossing where we don't want them to, and then they have to climb over the fencing, and that poses a different type of hazard. At the same, and on the other hand, those fencings are typically not rated for vehicular hitting them. So you could have a hazard from a car hitting that railing, flying over, and becoming a projectile object. So, you know, the city has always frowned upon it, and I even installed it. Yeah, if these are options, something like this is wished for, you know, we can look into possibly putting guide rail in. But then again, that's a different type of maintenance problem and really doesn't solve the problem.
Right. I've never seen them in Philadelphia, so I was assuming the city had some problem with them.
Right.
I just wanted to
I mean,
check.
yeah, I mean, that was actually a thought years ago along Roosevelt Boulevard when a lot of folks were crossing mid-block at uncontrolled locations. And there was a thought about putting fencing along there, and it's the same issue. Now you have someone crossing, getting stuck onto the fence, and then walking along the roadway till you find a break in that fence, and it just poses more of a hazard.
Okay.
Thank you, Steve. Thanks,
Sure.
Mr. Curtin. Kyle Lynn Venice.
Hey, can you all hear me?
Go ahead.
Yeah, so I thought it was interesting to say, you know, when you suggested that maybe we could have like angled parking along Girard, that, you know, that couldn't happen because it would disrupt the flow of traffic. But currently all along Girard, you know, people always double park in that eastbound travel lane. So it seems like the current situation is really not working well as a travel lane, and it already is very disrupted by parking activity. So I think I would kind of just echo what John said and encourage us to really, you know, maybe reimagine the whole section of street there, because I think right now it's really not working very well for anybody. You know, it's dangerous for cars. We see lots of accidents. It slows down the trolley because it's got to be there with the cars. And again, it's very unfriendly to bikes. I would never bike along Girard Avenue there, and not too fun to cross as a pedestrian either. So I'd really encourage us to think about really reimagining this whole stretch to really work better for everybody, hopefully. And then as a more small concrete example, I was wondering if we could have just something to slow the cars off of that southbound ramp off of 95, like maybe those rumble strips, just to, you know, do something to slow them down a little bit, because it's a really, really straight ramp. And so they really don't have to slow down at all coming off of 95 on a Girard. And could we also just have like a yield sign between Aramingo and that ramp? Because right now there's literally no control between that merge from Aramingo and the 95 off ramp. So I think like those two things could really help make that a little bit less of a chaotic merge and hopefully a little bit safer.
Thank you, Colin. We agree. Steve, is that, or Elaine, or both? Is that anything we could look into? Is those possibilities?
So let me
Elaine.
get this. That was southbound 95. He was saying people are coming off of southbound and then taking the straight shot.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, so rumble strips, not the best idea. I think what we try to do is either striping, right? Alert them, speed reduction, that sort of thing. There's a signal not far away, so we can look into it. I know rumble strips were not going to be something feasible on the ramp with truck traffic. And I'm not the traffic engineer, so you can tell I'm like, you know, going back into my brain here, trying to figure out if there were any other topics that have come up on ramps that could slow traffic. I don't know that Steve's got any ideas either on that one.
Well,
We
to go back to the rumble strip, in addition, why, you know, it's not great coming off of ramps. I mean, it does slow people down. The problem is rumble strips are very noisy, especially in the middle of the night in an urban area. both the city and the Commonwealth would be getting phone calls the day after they're installed to have them removed. Because it's like a urban canyon that you start to get into, and it just will bounce, that sound will just bounce off the wall, off the buildings.
Yeah.
Thanks for weighing in on that.
Yeah, I mean, to Steve's point, there were rumble strips in certain areas, and we're removing some rumble strips for that reason.
And the yield sign on Aramingo?
The yield on Aramingo is on, I guess, is that where the spur from Girard comes in Aramingo going north?
So that's right. That's right by those flexi posts we were just talking about. That merge right there.
Eileen, it's when you're coming southbound off of Aramingo and you stay to the left to go up the ramp, and the right to come down through the narrow between the embankment wall and the buildings.
Yeah.
And then you merge onto Girard Avenue at that
There's
point.
a yield there. Okay.
Yeah.
There's no sign currently, unless it's been installed very recently.
Now I'm trying to remember if a yield sign's even needed there, because you're actually going, I don't remember if that's a merge or if you just form its own lane. I just don't remember anymore.
It's a merge.
Okay.
Yeah, there's just 2 lanes, but the lane is just really, really wide at the first
Okay.
intersection, and the cars will just be stacked in there too wide in a single lane.
Okay.
Steve, what I'll do is I'll bring it up. We got a construction meeting coming up on the 13th. I'll bring it
Okay.
up there. I don't know, sometimes Kasim will call into those. I actually kind of begged him to go to the 13th call.
Okay.
So I'm hoping,
All right.
because it's the last one for the year, and I just don't want him buttoning up stuff and having things hang out there. So I'll bring this up
All
at
right.
that meeting. And
All
we can
right,
see if that's,
And if you need any help from either me or Rich, just reach out to us.
And,
Okay.
and by the way, thanks, guys. If for any of these that you're checking on, if you want to relate back what you find to me, and I'll make sure to share with everybody.
Sure.
Thank you,
it'll
guys.
either be me or our construction team if it becomes a construction item. So Hill International, literally, they're right there. They're
Yep.
right at, Penn Treaty Place.
Thanks, Elaine. Venice.
Thanks, Mark. Elaine, just to follow up with, I'm sorry, Denise Whitaker, constituent service representative for Council President Darrell Clark, everyone. Elaine, just to follow up what Kyle is saying, when you exit from I-95, it's really, there's a rush of cars, and then you have the merging that's from Aramingo. And right now, I think there's been an influx of maybe 75 new units along Aramingo. So we're getting more car traffic along that way. So there's a lot of flow of traffic coming into those points, just to kind of echo it with Kyle. Steve, so Palmer and Girard, there has been a lot of car accidents right there with cars turning, U-turns, there's always a backup. You always got to find another way to turn down Palmer Street. And again, there's been a lot of car accidents. There are cars going into buildings right there. Has there been any traffic safety surveys for that area, or can we request for one to be done?
I think it's been, I can't tell you if there's been traffic studies done there recently. So it may be best if you could just put a request in for a traffic study to be done. Now, again, this goes back to what Mark and I talked about towards the beginning of this meeting, where if it's a left turn, problem into crossing over, similar to what's down in Berks, we're going to be putting some pavement markings out there in the spring, large straight arrows. At least they'll tell people not to make the turn. Installing signage, it's Girard Avenue so wide, you're not going to be able to see that or pay attention to it. So we're hoping that the pavement markings might, do the job, or at least alert. It's not going to solve the problem, but it's at least going to try to help some stuff.
What about a turn signal right there?
We can look into it. When you make that request for a traffic study, maybe you can make the request for the left turn.
Yes.
Again, part of the problem with the left turn arrows, let's say use Berks, for example, they are so far because of the trolley catenaries. It's just tough to put those signals in the cone of vision. But I'm not saying no, but it is it's a challenge, but it is something that we can, look into.
Yeah, I've noticed a lot of, with the traffic patterns, a lot of people are turning making that turn to avoid Frankford Avenue because that's so backed up,
Right.
and Palmer Street goes all the way through.
Right.
So, especially because it's so nicely paved now. Thank you very much, Streets Department, to all you guys. But yeah, that really could be looked into. So,
Sure.
thank you.
Yeah, like I said, Denise, put the request in,
I will.
and we'll talk with our traffic unit, Kasim and Pat Callahan, and see what the results show.
Wonderful. Thank
Yeah.
you, Steve. Appreciate you as
Yep.
always.
Thank you.
Thanks, Steve. Thanks, Denise. And Marie from Save the Fishtown Turtles is back.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with Venice. She's saying Palmer, but Girard Avenue and Columbia. What they're doing is they're trying to make the left-hand turn on the opposite side of the trolley. And there are accidents there constantly. Matter of fact, we had a neighbor get hit because of it. You need to do something. I mean,
All right, Marie, I'll add it to my list to send over to Steve.
And just so you know, by the way, Venice, we actually, because we sit to Kasim Ali for the traffic studies, I know Columbia and Berks at Girard were two of them. And I know what certainly Steve talked about earlier in the call was about certainly in the areas, Marie, that you're just talking about, in the minimum, trying to do some painting on the road to clarify turn and non-turn areas.
yeah, but I mean, even used to be a sign at the end of the trolley that said left-hand turn before they come up. I mean, they're coming down Girard Avenue and they're not even riding the trolley tracks, they're riding the other side and they're just turning to go down Columbia Avenue. And at least once or twice a week. I mean, the one at Burke Street a couple weeks ago was ungodly, you know, because I rode by to see that. But we need to do something. Hanging the sign all the way up on top of the trolley lines, down by where the Bank of America used to be. There used to be a sign up there that said left-hand turns. Who's going to look all the way up in the trolley aisles, the trolley, you know, the trolley lines to see left-hand turn? That's where it used to be. I don't know if it's still there, you know, but I really would appreciate something because used to be tractor trailers used to hit the islands every Friday night. Now it's just cars making the turn the wrong way.
We'll make sure, Marie, that we'll continue to work with Steve and Rich Montanez to bring any possible safety measures, not just to there, but anywhere throughout the corridor, and we'll keep everybody posted. Before we go, I know, at least I did see him, Adam Smith from OTIS is on. Adam, thanks for joining us. Is there anything you want to add? I don't want to make you talk if you don't want to, but I want to thank you for being here.
Yeah, no, absolutely. No, I was mostly on just to listen. Yeah, if there's any questions, but yeah, just listening, getting caught up. For folks, yeah, that don't know me, so yeah, with our Office of Complete Streets, we've kind of recently reconfigured where we have 4 different districts now. So I'll be covering, I'm managing the Central District, which does go up in this area up to around Lehigh Ave. So it covers this area. So yeah, wanted to listen in, hear what your concerns were on the corridor, and see what we can do to help.
Well, thanks for joining us tonight. And we're at 8 o'clock, and I want to thank everybody for being here. I want to thank Elaine Elbick, Chuck Davies from PennDOT, David Fecto from Planning, Wendy Green Harvey from SEPTA, Steve Lorenz from Streets, and of course Adam Smith from OTIS, and Venice, our friend Venice from Council President's Office. You know, we're all in this together, and we're all here to find solutions together. We will be posting an edited version of tonight's presentation. It'll be rated G, we promise. For everybody, we'll have that in our newsletter on Friday and on social media. And remember, this is just the beginning of our conversations together, not just to build a better Girard, but a better corridor. With that, I want to thank everybody and shameless. Oh, that's right. Go ahead, Kay.
Fishtown Trees is happening this Saturday. That is December 10th. It's all throughout the neighborhood, in addition to the ice sculptures at over 20 different businesses. We also have 3 live cards starting from 2:30 up until 5. We have an ice bonfire, and we also have the holiday shopping spree. So there's about 20 participating retailers in the neighborhood. The first store that you go to, you get 5% off. The second store, 10%. Third store, 15%, all the way up to 20%. And then the rest of the stores that you shop at, you get that 20% discount. And you can take this free card to a couple of different local breweries and get yourself some drink discounts with it as well. So please, there's a lot of fun things going on in our neighborhood this weekend. Check them all out. Follow us on IG for the latest Fishtown_district.
Well done, Kay. And with that, have a great night and happy holidays, everybody.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Same to you.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you for everyone who attended.
Yep.